Hi everyone, Jeff here with you for a GMTE Express add-on with our brand new feature here exclusive to the YouTube channel called the Wednesday Night Wrestling Blitz. I'm going to have thoughts on AEW Dynamite and WWE NXT as they are going head-to-head now on Wednesday nights, and that's what we're going to do here. So let's go ahead and get into it. We'll start with AEW first. It took place from the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. It opened up with a featured match, having Cody Rhodes out with Brandi taking on Sammy Guevara. Pretty good stuff overall. I thought these guys told a great story. Both guys hit big moves and had lots of near falls. During the match, at one point, we had Guevara and Brandi Rhodes on the outside. You saw what was coming next. Cody goes to go for a dive here. Guevara pulls Brandi into the way, and Cody accidentally takes Brandi out. It wasn't a hard attack, but it was enough to take her out. I didn't think her sell was all that great. Brandi does get revenge later on. She used her shoe, the heel of her shoe, to strike Guevara on the outside, and Cody had hit the disaster kick off the rope for a near fall. There were some high spots that came after that. We saw Cody hit an inverted superplex, and then Guevara hit this awesome-looking Spanish fly for a very close near fall. Towards the end of the match, after he had hit that, he went up, Guevara did, for a shooting star press. Cody got the knees up and actually rolled Guevara up into a small package for the 3 count. So Cody did win. He's getting himself in line for a title shot against Jericho. I was a little surprised that Cody won here. I figured Guevara was going over, but Cody does win since he's getting the title opportunity. We see Tony Schiavone go into the ring to do an interview with Cody. Guevara does go out to extend his hand to Cody. Jericho comes from behind to break things up. And just Jericho goes to work on him for like a good 10 minutes here. He hits him with a chair, and then, of course, the big finish here was Jericho powerbombing Cody into a pair of folding chairs, which did not break, so that had to hurt. So Cody wins, but Jericho stands tall in the end. And I should mention, before I go any further, the commentary team for the show was Jim Ross, Excalibur, and Tony Schiavone. So Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone working together, and I thought the commentary for the most part was fine. I didn't really see any big issue with the commentary. Next match on the card was MJF, that's Maxwell Jacob Freeman, taking on Brandon Cutler, of course. It was a short match, a squash. This was a showcase for MJF. He cuts a promo before going into the ring. It was a good promo. I didn't think it was his best stuff. I know the fans reacted to it by calling him an asshole. So he did his job, but I didn't think this was his best stuff. Cutler does get a few hope spots in. He does hit a Thez Perez onto the floor, but ultimately MJF shortly counters afterwards. He eventually hits the crushing elbow strike, and then he applied the Salt of the Earth armbar for the quick tap out, and MJF won. This was basically a squash to showcase MJF. We got a promo out on the floor next. We saw Chris Van Vliet make his AEW debut here as a reporter here, I guess you could say. He's interviewing the gentlemen that are involved with Jay and Silent Bob. That, of course, is Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes. Of course, Jericho's going to be in the movie as well that they're talking about. Angelico and Jack Evans come out to interrupt the proceedings, and then they talk trash. Private Party comes, though, a little bit nonchalantly to make the save for Smith and Mewes, and then they just ran off Angelico and Jack Evans, and that was the end of it. I was not a big fan of that. I know this is the way to get celebrity involvement, but I was not a big fan of this. I just thought it was out of place here. So then we got SoCal Uncensored, SCU. They do this stuff because they're in Washington, D.C. They do this bit outside of the White House. Scorpio Sky does an impression of President Barack Obama. And then we see Daniels and Kazarian being shown as the Secret Service guys. Then they actually do a promo in the arena. They do this then, and then it was announced that Daniels and Kazarian would be the team teaming up for the tag team tournament. The Lucha Bros eventually come out, and then eventually all 5 guys get into a brawl. We see officials and agents. We saw Dean Malenko actually out there as one of the agents, so they had a nice little brawl there. Next match was Pac, of course, formerly known as Neville in WWE. He took on Hangman Adam Page here. Not a terrible match. It was a decent match for what it was. I didn't think this was their best match from either guy here. It was a stiff match. We see Pac look pretty good here. He hit some springboard high spots at one point. Paige hit a great looking moonsault off the top rope to the outside at one point. The finish comes when they were into the ropes here. Pac had hit Paige with a mule kick that actually hit below the belt. Of course, referee Earl Hebner's back was turned the other way. He didn't see it. Pac eventually followed with a black arrow, and then he hit the brutalizer submission. And then Hebner called for the bell. Paige did not tap out, but Earl Hebner called for the bell, so Pac wins and is still undefeated. Next up was the AEW Women's Title match. Of course, to determine the first ever AEW Women's Title holder, that we had Rio taking on Nyla Rose. Britt Baker was out for commentary for the match. You figure she's going to be in line next for a title opportunity between whoever wins this match. It was a good match. I thought it was a little sloppy at times. Of course, Rio being the underwhelming, the big underdog here. Nyla Rose being the strong, powerful one here. It's a good match. I mean, Nyla dominates for a while. Rio makes the hot comeback. And ultimately, in the end, Rio went on to hit the Avalanche Northern Lights suplex off the second rope, which was a good-looking move here. Then eventually, she hit the running knees into Nyla Rose's face, and sure enough, she got the 1-2-3 and won the match, which was a surprise. I figured Nyla Rose, like a lot of people thought, that Nyla Rose was winning, but they gave the title to Rio, which was a bit of a surprise. There was one spot during the match, it looked like I think Rio was going for a back body drop on Nyla, and they just both really botched it badly. Though the crowd, I think, gave him a pass, but it was not a good-looking spot. And there was a couple other things that were a little sloppy here. But she won, so it was a surprise. Afterwards, Nyla Rose got her heat back. She attacked Rio and delivered a powerbomb. Almost botched the powerbomb on Michael Nakazawa, who was out to interview Rio. She almost botched it the first time, but eventually got him up the second time and pulled it off. Nyla looked like she was going for a Death Valley driver on the apron to Rio. Kenny Omega came out to make the save, and eventually that was enough to end that. But Rio is the champion, so congratulations to her. And in your main event on the evening, six-man tag team action, we had Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks teaming up to take on Jericho, and what we found out were the mystery partners were Santana and Ortiz, of course, the tag team formerly known as LAX in Impact Wrestling, but of course they can't use the LAX name because that's an Impact name. This is pretty much everything that you figured it would be here. It was pretty wild. I thought it was a bit overbooked for my liking. At one point, we see Moxley make his return. He ran in, he pulled Omega out of the match, and they had a brawl going through the arena. At one point, we see Moxley hit the double arm underhook DDT onto Kenny Omega through a glass table, which had to hurt. The glass table did not. That had to hurt. I don't think it gave, if I remember right, but that did not look good. Anyway, so the match continues with Omega out of it, so it's essentially a handicap match. The heels dominate for a while. The late tag by Matt Jackson to Nick Jackson. He hits all his high-flying moves. Jericho eventually ran into the intercept what was going to be a best Meltzer driver ever attempt by hitting a code breaker. And then eventually Jericho hits a Judas effect, and that was it. And he won. He pinned and covered Nick Jackson with that and won the match, and the heels won the match. So afterwards is what happened next. So we had the 3-on-2 beatdown for a while. Cody came out to make the save to even it up. Guevara comes out to take Cody to Low Below Bargain Basement City, and then Dustin Rhodes came out to clean house, and then we had what was supposed to be a surprise here, I guess, on the heel side. Jake Hager, of course, he's a Bellator MMA heavyweight champion, and formerly known as Jack Swagger in the WWE for you wrestling fans. He came out, he hits a big spine buster on Dustin Rhodes, and then we get this kind of this big faction beatdown. Cody eventually went through a small table on the outside. Jericho landed another Judas effect, and then they just eventually they did a deal where they piled up all the babyface bodies and then they posed for the cameras as they were going off the air. So kind of had like the feel of them forming a faction. Kind of, I would not like really NWO faction like, but something to the effect. So that's how they went off the air. So we had that. So that was AEW Dynamite that took place from Washington D.C. Let's talk about NXT. Of course, that took place from Full Sail University down in Central Florida, just outside of Orlando. I believe at Winter Park is where they have it. They opened their show with the NXT title match. They had Adam Cole taking on Matt Riddle here. I thought this was a very good match here to start off their show. We see Riddle right away hitting German suplexes, getting it going. Cole battles back. Both guys just go back and forth here. At one point, Adam Cole had hit a Panama Sunrise, I should say, for a very close near fall. Crowd thought that was the finish of the match. Matt Riddle actually countered another attempt at the Sunrise and actually hit the Bro to sleep, and then into a powerbomb combination into another floating Bro for a very close near fall as well. Ultimately, in the end, Cole was able to win. He went and got the last shot in after he had used his cast to daze Matt Riddle, and that was enough. Last shot, 1, 2, 3 to retain. They gave the match about 20 minutes. It was a great match, and it was a good way to start off the show. After the match, we got our first big surprise of the night here. Finn Balor, his music hit, he comes out. The crowd absolutely stunned. I did not see it coming either, so this was a nice surprise here as Finn Balor is making his return. He basically says, as of now, Finn Balor is NXT, so obviously they could be setting up with something with Balor and Cole for the title going forward. So yeah, we had that. That was a pretty cool looking sight there, because Finn Balor is the longest reigning NXT champion in their history, so we had that. Velveteen Dream was out next afterwards for a promo. He issued a challenge to Roderick Strong for a rematch of the North American title. Basically saying that he wants to give Roderick Strong a chance to stand out on his own and step out of the shadow of the Undisputed Era. So we had that, and the next great women's match, we had Io Shirai taking on Mia Yim. Great match here. I thought both these ladies told an outstanding story. We saw Io Shirai, as the match got going, smacked away Mia Yim's hand before the match, so you want to establish her more as a heel now, so that's how that worked. Mio got her offense in. Eventually, Shirai was able to battle back. She got a springboard missile dropkick in for a close near fall. Mia Yim actually responded eventually with a code blue for a very close near fall. And then ultimately in the end, however, Io Shirai was able to win. She hit the moonsault finisher for the victory, and that was that. And of course, you have to keep Io Shirai strong, and that's what they're doing here. So she won, and rightfully so. She should have won here. Next up was Johnny Gargano taking on Shane Thorne. It was a good match. Not the best match I've seen from these guys. Gargano, of course, he hit the slingshot DDT throughout the match at one point during the match. Not enough to put Thorne away. Thorne was able to battle back. He hit a leg lariat at one point, and then a cannonball, and then he hit the sit-out powerbomb for near falls. Didn't get it done. Eventually, Gargano was able to recover, and he hit Thorne with the Poison Rana, and then eventually the kneeling super kick for the win. So Gargano gets a big win here over Shane Thorne. Next match on the card, and what I thought was the best match on the card here, was for the NXT Women's Title. We had Shayna Baszler of the Horsewoman. She takes on Candice LeRae here. I thought these two told a great story. This was easily the best match on the show, as I mentioned. Shayna dominates early. LeRae gets her heat in for a while. She threw, at one point, Baszler into the steel steps and smashed her arm with her foot. She hits some suicides through the ropes at one point to gain an advantage for a while. Eventually, at one point, she hit the swinging neckbreaker for a very close near fall. LeRae was able to counter a crucifix clutch quite a few times there. She hit the underhook DDT. And then ultimately, LeRae missed a springboard moonsault off the ropes. And then eventually, in the end, Baszler was able to catch Candice LeRae in the Kerfita clutch. LaRue fought it for a while, trying to reach the ropes, couldn't do it in the end, and ultimately tapped out. So Shayna Baszler retained. No surprise, as she should have, but this was a great match. Candice LeRae really made a great showing here, even though she did not win the match here. These two told the best match on the entire show, told a great story, and this was easily the best match on the show. Next up was Pete Dunne taking on Danny Burch. Not a whole lot to the match here. It felt kind of like a filler match to me, like they needed to put something in here. Pete Dunne, this was a dominating effort from here. He hit the bitter end on Danny Burch. It didn't take very long. He won the match. We see Damian Priest make an appearance. He slid into the ring and actually hit Pete Dunne from behind, and then took him out. Then eventually he posed over Pete Dunne there. So Damian Priest and Pete Dunne looks like they have something setting up. Finally, in your main event of the evening for the NXT Tag Team titles, we had the Undisputed Era taking on the Street Profits. Of course, they're coming from Monday Night Raw to NXT here for this Tag Team title opportunity. Whale brought out Profits through the crowd and hyped them up. Undisputed Era, I should say. They dominated for a while, keeping Dawkins down, I should say. And then they get the hot tag. We see all this good stuff here. Eventually, towards the end, we saw Ford go for a splash, a frog splash. He missed on it, and then eventually we saw Roderick Strong pull his leg to stave off another high-risk maneuver as Ford was going back up to the top rope. Angelo Dawkins was able to take out Strong with a spear under the ring apron, but Fish then eventually knocked Ford off the top rope, and then the champions, the Undisputed Era, hit the total elimination for the win, and that's how they won to retain the title. Afterwards, another big surprise here to close out the show. Tommaso Ciampa made his return. Adam Cole had come out to the stage to celebrate with his members of the Undisputed Era, but before he can get there, Tommaso Ciampa's music hit, a big reaction from the crowd. Of course, he's coming back from a major injury. We see Ciampa stalking Adam Cole there for a while, going around in a circle, and then we had a stare down as they went off the air. So obviously, we have something going with Tommaso Ciampa and Adam Cole going forward from what it looks like, I should say. So we had that. So that was NXT that took place from Full Sail University down in Central Florida. Before I will give you my Bear Claw pick of the week, let's talk about the ratings real quick. Of course, that's what everyone wanted to know. What were the ratings going to be when it was all said and done? Well, it was a surprise, I should say. AEW Dynamite won for the night, and they won convincingly. Their premiere episode did 1.409 million viewers, which was a surprise to me. I didn't think they were going to do that well, but they did. NXT did 891,000 viewers, so AEW won by 58%. Of course, AEW won in the key 18-49 demo, pretty handily, I should say. And in total viewership for the night, AEW ranked 16th in the night in viewership, while NXT ranked 27th. So, yeah. Big win for AEW, and I'm sure TNT, Warner Media, and AEW, they had to be thrilled with that number. And I know WWE did put out a statement saying that they congratulated them, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. But yeah, I wonder internally what Vince McMahon had to be thinking when he saw those numbers. So that's a big win for AEW. Now, it could have been just people coming in to see what it looked like. Maybe we'll see if they can sustain those numbers, or if NXT can get something going to get it back on track. So we had that. So those are the rings. Which show won for the week? Which show gets my Bear Claw pick of the week as far as who had the better action? I think NXT actually had the better action. My Bear Claw pick of the week goes to NXT. I thought AEW was good. A little overbooked there, especially at the end for my liking. I didn't really like that. I thought the match for the AEW Women's title was a little sloppy at times. But AEW overall had a pretty good show, but I thought NXT just had the better action. So that, my friends, is your official Wednesday Night Wrestling Blitz here on the YouTube channel. Thanks for checking us out. Bye for now, everyone.
For the JBSN Media Network, this is Jenna Green speaking.